organic, unpredictable, unknown, lovely, beautiful, a sense of fulfillment. This is part of the pleasures of life and not the chores of life.
Coming up on Daily Iowan TV, find out how a night at Purdue ended tragically for a University of Iowa student.
And learn about an unlikely protest outside an Iowa City business.
And in sports, pay for play, our sports staff examines the issue.
All that and much more is coming your way next.
Daily Iowan TV starts now.
I'm Tom Brokaw. For more than 100 years now, the University of Iowa community has been waking up to the Daily Iowan. Today, it's the largest newsroom in eastern Iowa. And now you can see the news every night on Daily Iowan TV and get it anytime worldwide at dailyiowan.com.
Thanks for tuning into your Sunday edition of Daily Iowan TV. I'm Christina Targos.
And I'm Anna Theodosis. A University of Iowa student was hit by a vehicle early Saturday morning on the Purdue University campus while visiting a friend who attends the school. According to a press release, 22-year-old Nicole Ruffalo was crossing Grant Street when she was struck by a vehicle shortly after 3 a.m. Saturday morning. Ruffalo sustained serious head injuries and is comatose and in critical condition at a local hospital. 25-year-old Courtney Nichols drove the suspected vehicle and allegedly did not stop after hitting Ruffalo and continued northbound until she was detained a few minutes later. According to the release, officials expect alcohol was a factor, but the crash remains under investigation.
Johnson County Attorney Janet Linus said North Liberty officers acted with, quote, reasonable force when a domestic disturbance call escalated into a shootout early last month. Linus would not identify which specific North Liberty officer fired 7 shots, resulting in the death of UI graduate student Talib Salome, according to reports. Responders were first informed of a fight by Salome's neighbors, who witnessed a fight between him and his girlfriend. When police arrived at Salome's North Liberty mobile home, he fired 4 shots at the officers through his back door before they acted. Organizers of the Drake Relays announced Friday a ban on backpacks and large bags inside Drake Stadium following the bombings in Boston. Drake Relays officials were asked early last week whether security would be increased in wake of the explosions at the Boston Marathon, and they expressed confidence in their preparations but said they would inform the public of any changes in security. Competing athletes and coaches will be allowed to bring bags into the stadium, but they may be searched. The annual event held on Drake University's campus in Des Moines will take place April 25th through the 28th.
Relief teams rushed to southwestern China Sunday to help those affected by the magnitude 7.2 earthquake on Saturday. The earthquake left nearly 200 dead, 24 missing, and more than 11,000 injured. Rescuers flew in helicopters and dynamited through landslides to get to the most isolated communities, where sniffer dogs were led through debris in search of survivors. The earthquake occurred along the same fault line where a devastating quake killed 90,000 people 5 years ago in one of China's worst natural disasters.
Residents of the greater Boston area were urged to stay indoors Friday as authorities combed the streets of Watertown, Massachusetts, looking for the second bombing suspect, Jahar Sarniev. Sarniev disappeared after a gunfight that killed Massachusetts officer Richard Donahue and Tamerlan Sarniev, who was also a suspect in the bombings. The younger Sarniev was finally found around 6:30 p.m. when a man wandered outside of his home and noticed the tarp on his boat was bloodied and askew. Authorities took armed and injured Sarniev into custody Friday evening. The suspect is currently in serious condition and unable to speak. Authorities have not yet said what charges will be filed against him. When we come back, learn how Iowa City residents were able to ride their bikes for a good cause.
And in sports, more conference realignment in the Big Ten's future.
But before we get to that, let's check in with Daily Iowan TV's Mary LaPlaca about the weather. Mary?
Thanks, Christina. After all the rain we had last week, you'd think that we've gotten our fair share already. Well, not quite. Tomorrow we'll have a 30% chance of rain throughout the day. The morning will start off at 47 degrees. The day will reach to 62 degrees and it will drop to 59 degrees at night. As we look into the rest of the week, Monday will reach a high of 61 degrees with a 30% chance of rain. Tuesday will drop to 44 degrees and an 80% chance of rain. There will be no rain on Wednesday and it will reach to 51 degrees. Thursday will be the last bit of showers with 30% chance of rain and a high of 53 degrees. The weekend will be nice, reaching up into the upper 60 degrees. That's all I have for the weather this week. Back to you at the desk.
Thanks for the update, Mary. An Iowa City animal enthusiast and local veterinarian will offer neutering and spaying services for local pet owners at a discounted price starting Monday. The mobile vaccination service, called One Spay at a Time, will be offered throughout Johnson County. Jan Hedges started the service hoping to lower the cost of neutering for people as well as lower the amount of unwanted animals throughout the city. She will also set up a space of practice at the 4-H Fairgrounds office starting every Monday at the beginning of this week. The discounted vaccinations will be considerably lower than local Iowa City veterinarian offices. Prices will range from $25 to $75 depending on the breed and gender of the animal.
Spring weather is finally here, allowing people to start riding their bikes again. Sunday morning, Iowa City residents got the opportunity to ride their bikes for a good cause. Daily Iowan TV reporter Whitney Blakemore has more.
Riding for a cause. On Sunday morning, people of all ages rode their bicycles all around the outskirts of Iowa City to support and raise money. Despite this windy day, about 200 people showed up to participate in this event, with all the proceeds going to United Action for Youth. Ride for Youth was created by a medical student here who was interested in giving back to the community.
We're hosting this through the Bulwer Learning Community at the Carver College of Medicine. It's a charity bike ride for United Action for Youth, which is a local charity that does a variety of services for local youth throughout Johnson County.
And the service agency couldn't be any more grateful.
He's very community-minded. He's a med student and a PhD student at the university, and he just came forward and said, I want to do this, and organized the whole thing on our behalf, so we're really lucky.
An 18-mile, 40-mile, and a 60-mile route were available so everyone could enjoy the event.
Well, originally we had set out to do the 64, but then about halfway through when there was the turnoff point for the 40, we took it, and so now we're finishing up the 40 loop. The wind was really rough. I was not expecting that.
Rest stops with food, drinks, music, bathrooms, and more were available throughout the course. Whitney Blakemore, Daily Iowan TV.
Our own Ian Martin has been working on a project about UI student athletes over the past few months. Daily Iowan TV reporter Allie Wright is in the newsroom getting the inside scoop about what we can expect from Ian in tomorrow's edition of the Daily Iowan.
Thanks, guys. Well, I'm in the DI newsroom with reporter Ian Martin, and he has a really interesting profile on student athletes running in Monday's edition of the Daily Iowan. Ian, what can you tell me about your story?
This is a story I've been working on for a few months, just about how hard it is to be a student athlete, how much of a time commitment it is to be a student athlete, and what's different about being a student athlete as opposed to being a general student. In particular, the time that they have to put in, it's a lot different than those that are, say, working and as well as going to school because of the physical toll and just how much is expected of them on a daily basis.
Okay, well, that sounds really interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. I know everybody else is too. Well, be sure to pick up a copy of Monday's edition of the Daily Iowan to read Ian's story on student athletes. Back to you guys.
Speaking of Hawkeye Athletics, it's time to throw it over to the Daily Iowan TV sports studio where Alicia Denez and Cody Goodwin are standing by. Alicia? Cody? Hello, welcome back to the Daily Iowan TV Sports Studio. A very busy week and across the sporting world, but Cody, perhaps the biggest story comes from the Big Ten Conference.
That's right, Alicia. The Big Ten Conference realignment talk dominated the weekend with ESPN.com's Adam Rittenberg reporting that the teams will now be assigned to the divisions based on the geography. Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, Northwestern, Purdue, and Wisconsin will now battle for the Big Ten Western Division crown. Meanwhile, Indiana, Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State, and Big Ten newcomers Maryland and Rutgers will round out the Big Ten Eastern Division in 2014.
The new alignment will replace the current Legends and Leaders Division, which were created in 2011 based primarily on competitive balance. Conference presidents and chancellors are expected to pass a vote this week and are likely to push for a 9-game conference schedule beginning in 2016.
And we'll have ESPN.com's Adam Rittenberg on the program later this week to chat about the expected changes. But for now, let's toss it over to our own pigskin experts. That's Ian Martin and Ben Ross for a little friendly debate. New divisions, is it a good thing or a bad thing, boys?
Ian Martin, Ben Ross, up to our old tricks. We're going to talk football this time in the Daily Iowan newsroom because there has been realignment, proposed at least, in the Big Ten. You can now see the graphic on your screen explaining that it is a logical East and West, no more legends and leaders. Thank goodness, we can both agree on that. Otherwise, though, what does this mean for Iowa going forward?
Well, I think the best thing is we got the Paul Bunyan's Axe came back with Wisconsin. They've missed that for the last 3 or 4 years. That's big. Also, you play Illinois. You know, there's a lot of Illinois fans in Iowa City. That was a really important game to have back because just the proximity between the two schools as well makes the most sense.
Yeah, also get to keep Floyd of Rosedale game going with Minnesota logically. They've really done a good job of just splitting it East and West. That makes the most sense. Although the initial perception would be Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State, all on the other side. Wisconsin has been arguably the best Big Ten team over the last few seasons, and they have had as many Rose Bowl appearances as Ohio State in the last 20 years, and of course Nebraska is going to be good year in and year out. Well, that is basically all we know right now. There's not going to be any crossover games aside from Indiana and Purdue locked every season. 9-game conference slate, though. What do you think about that, Ben?
Oh, you know, it's good. Big Ten needs some credibility right now. Right now they're, playing underdogs to SEC and the other schools and the other conferences. And just, I think, playing a lot of games within your conference will only add to credibility to their rosters.
Yeah, that's about it. So, for Ben Ross, Ian Martin, that's what we think about the Big Ten's football realignment.
Thank you, boys. And while the Big Ten might be changing, again, one heated topic of discussion surrounding the treatment of college athletics has stayed the same.
Yeah, that's right, Cody. The pay-for-play issue in collegiate sports isn't one being swept under the rug. Debates on whether these student athletes are being exploited or protected are as common of a theme as there is in sports. With more on the issue, we toss it over to Daily Iowan TV sports reporter Allie Racely, who has the story. Allie?
Pay-for-play in college athletics seems to be a long-standing debate that never ends. While some people think it's a bad idea to pay these athletes, others think it's a good idea to have a little compensation. Dan Matheson, a former NCAA investigator, is one of these people who thinks a little compensation would be beneficial.
I do believe that there should be some form of compensation for student athletes beyond the current scholarship, room and board.
The NCAA tried to add compensation beyond scholarship, room, and board with a stipend of $2,000 in 2010, but had to stop because athletic directors and conference commissioners were not able to afford it. However, when the Big Ten Conference is raking in about $120 million in the next decade, it is hard to agree with them. These schools are getting money from all over the place, including multiple networks, boosters, and athletic revenue. So what do these schools do with all the money that comes in?
These increased revenues are coming in. They're often being directed towards new facilities, higher coaches' salaries.
As new facilities might be a positive look to the student athletes, the higher salaries for coaches are not. Some might argue the fact that the coaches are not the ones putting in all the hours, the players are. A few University of Iowa athletes claim they should be paid some sort of minimum wage for the work they put in on their own time. Matheson agrees, saying the minimum wage is a reasonable starting point for these student athletes. His opinion, as well as many others, agree that student athletes should be paid. But will this complicated issue ever get resolved?
I don't think it'll ever be resolved to everybody's satisfaction because there are a lot of different viewpoints out there.
A lot of different viewpoints there are. I'm Allie Raisley for Daily Iowan TV.
Thanks, Allie. Well, that's going to do it for us here in the studio. Big Monday show coming up for you tomorrow, though, with the Jim Hawks competing in the NCAA championships and a number of other black and gold sports in action over the weekend.
Yeah, Alicia, I actually heard the results from the Jim Hawks performance. 5th place at the NCAA championships as a team. It'll be a pretty big show for tomorrow, and you can catch us the same time, same place throughout the week with on-site reports and updates all on tap. But for now, it's back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, guys. And only with Daily Iowan TV can you get a sneak peek at Monday's edition of the Daily Iowan. Find out about more on the condition of the UI freshman struck by a vehicle at Purdue.
Plus, find out how the UI will not be as affected as some universities by sequestration.
That's your latest edition of Daily Iowan TV. Be sure to check us out tomorrow or anytime online at dailyiowan.com.
Thanks for watching and have a great night.